Okay, good afternoon, YouTube. Welcome back once again to Phatkat Collections. Kind of an unorthodox video for me today. Coming at you from my garage, and I'm going to do kind of a basic unboxing, very basic install of some bulbs I got from a company called Rimthin. So they reached out, they were nice to send me several different variations of their new LED automotive bulbs. And so this is going to be kind of a basic video. I think most people, for the most part, can figure out how to install a light, but sometimes these companies want to do an install video. So very basic. We're not going to spend tons of time showing you how to put a bulb in, but I'll give you an idea of what you're going to get. Okay, let me show you the bulbs they sent me. Okay, so here we go. So here is a couple different variations. You know, full disclosure here, when I collaborate with a company, sometimes it's not worth it for me to spend the time to make a video because it all takes time. By the time you film it, you edit it, even as basic as my editing is, and uploading it, all that takes time. So I'm generally not going to do a video for a product that's like 20 bucks, right? So in this case, because I can definitely use this product, I'm always interested in seeing how the LED bulb technology has changed. I am more of an HID guy. I have HID kits in every one of my cars. This is a 2006 Solara I'm going to be showing off today, mainly just the bulbs. This car I decided to go and try a set of LEDs because, again, the technology is getting better as far as I understand, and you know, I generally would not go out and spend the money to buy LED bulbs when I'm already running HID. And for those of you who don't know, HID stands for high intensity discharge. Typically, to date, they are the brightest bulbs on the market. Now, I'm not saying that there are not LEDs that are over the top, super bright, but I don't know if necessarily they've come out with an LED bulb yet that really corrects kind of the odd beam pattern you get with a lot of bulbs. Some LED bulbs, and I'll just kind of show you what they sent me here and kind of give you just kind of a crash course of what I'm talking about. So this one here, again, what's interesting is the company is, their link is to Rimthin, but the name of the bulb is Franzix. I'm not really sure how you say that, but they sent me a couple different variations. So for the Solara, which is the ones that I put these LED bulbs in, it has an H11 on the regular beam. On the high beam, it has a 9005, and then on the fog lights or the driving lights, it has an H10. Now, this company did not have an H10, so I went with a 9005 for the fog lights. The bulb did have to be modified. If you read online, you will find that companies will give you kind of a cross-reference to say, oh, 905s will fit an H10 housing. Not the case. You'd have to take a Dremel and trim off, and I'll show you what I did here to get them to fit. This is very similar to a 9006. The only difference is typically with 9005 and 9006 halogen bulbs is your 9005 is typically used as a high beam bulb, and generally they have a higher wattage. So usually I think it's about 50 to 55 watts on halogen, whereas standard 9006 is going to be about 35. LEDs, you just don't know what you're going to get. Companies are advertising these things. For instance, the lumens on these, they advertise on their box that these are 120 watts. Now, that's a little misleading because this box actually has 4 bulbs in it. This is kind of their combo pack, which came with, what did it come with? 9005 and it says 9005/HB311 and H8. So a little confusing there, but on the side, it says 9005 and H11. So this would be typically the fitment for what they have available for the Solara with my particular year. But however, when it comes to 9005s, this bulb, when I got it, had much larger tabs here. So what I did is I took out the standard correct fit H10 bulb and just kind of duplicated the cuts on this. I basically cut these down. You know, it's not a perfect fit, to be honest with you. So if you are very particular and you know about perfect fit, I would encourage you to maybe not do this because the bulb did wobble a little bit. And a way to correct that is I went ahead and added a second washer from the other bulbs, the HID bulb that I had in this car previously, and that just kind of tightened the fit up. This might just be something to my housing. It is an older housing, which brings me to the next part of this video, I guess, is I actually didn't use these in the housing since I took the fog lights out already. and I didn't really like the way that they fit based on the fact that this is not really an H10 bulb. Even though they say, oh, 9005 fits, it doesn't. You have to modify it, so just be aware. I went ahead and got like a brand new basically Amazon all-in-one projector housing instead. So I have those in my Dodge. I think they're much better than actually changing the bulb out. So my recommendation, not to bash on this product anyway, because these bulbs are great, is if you have the ability to get an aftermarket LED housing for your fog lights, go that route. I find they're much brighter because they're still using that bright LED technology. But when you have a housing like I have, which is a really large 4-inch, it's kind of typical on whether it be, you know, a lot of the Toyota trucks use them, the Solara, I think some Camrys, kind of like a universal size, and they give you different brackets. So in my case, when you're adding even an HID bulb, it's a lot like the factory H10 bulbs, because they're very similar to an or 9005. Typically, these fog lights were never intended from the factory to be using 55-watt bulbs, because you're going to glare oncoming traffic. So when you start putting in something like this, which again, this states that it has 32,000 lumens, and they say 120 watts, that's 30 watts per bulb for 4-pack. So even at 30 watts, if we're assuming that 32,000 is the lumens per 4, then what is that? We're looking at roughly 800 lumens. Is that no 8? Excuse me, 8. Can't add to 8,000 lumens per bulb. How does that stack up with HIDs? You know, unfortunately with this kind of stuff, you never really know what you're going to get until you put the actual bulb in the housing. Now, to date, I have not given this a test drive yet. I have this car blocked in right now. I'm driving a different vehicle. So I've turned it on at night. I've looked at it. They seem pretty bright. When I went ahead and compared the left side with a pretty new HID kit in it, and then the right side with one of their 9006 bulbs, it definitely was brighter. Now, whether or not the beam pattern, because this car has projectors in it, whether or not the beam pattern is going to shine better or worse than HID, not really sure. What I did notice about this car is over the last couple of years, the HIDs just didn't seem bright anymore, and they're relatively a new kit. So as with anything, everything wears, especially when it comes to HIDs. Just because you buy an HID kit, they're never going to be as bright the day you get them as 5 years down the road. But since I got these bulbs comped, I figure why not give it a try. The worst case scenario is if I find that I really think they're really dim at night, I can go ahead and swap them out and just order some new HID bulbs, right? I have the ballast and igniters ready. So the other thing I want to mention when it comes to LED bulbs is that this LED bulb, and they sent me 4 different variations. They sent me an H1, which I just recently got, the 9005, the 9006, which is pretty much exactly like this. This is the only difference between this and a 9005 is the tab and the location and size is a little different. And then they sent me what was the other one they sent me here? This is a set of 9006s again. So it's kind of weird. I kind of forget what I ordered here. Let me see what we got here. So this is, yeah, so here I'll just give you guys an example. This is a 9006, and of course this is a modified 9005. So if you were to get this from them, you would see that these tabs would be much larger, closer to the 9006, but it is different than the 9006. So just kind of keep that in mind when companies state that there's going to be you know, that a 9005 fits an H10 perfectly. That's not really the case. You may have to modify the bulb. But the good news is if your car has 9006 bulbs and they have a 9006, then it will fit plug and play, easy peasy, which I'll show you in a second here. The other thing I want to mention here, and I'm going to read you guys the specs, is that there is a specific alignment here. There is a negative and positive terminal. I have found that when I put these in my fog lights, they did not match up properly. Wait, sorry, strike that. Sometimes they may not line up properly. So it is specific. You have to have the negative going to the negative and positive. So if you were to put these in and find that your factory plug is swapped, you'll have to, what I did is on one of these, a different set, not this brand, I cut off the tab, and this allowed me to put the plug in either way and flip it around, but then I just wrapped it with electrical tape, just kind of keep it from popping out. It's not the end of the world. Like if you wrap this with electrical tape, it's gonna stay in, right? So just kind of keep that in mind. If you are getting something that you might have to modify, you may, you know, if you're getting trying to put this in an H10 housing, and this is not just H10, I'm sure there's other situations where, just like on the box here, they say 9005, they consider that the same as a HB3, or the H11 is considered an H8, and I can't really confirm what issues you may have if you get this. Ultimately, what you're looking for is to have this bulb plug in, lock in like any other bulb, and have it work. It is interesting that a company like this who makes bulbs wouldn't make a fitment for every car. H10 is a common bulb or just basically say, well, we're going to send you a 9005 instead. And that's not really on them. They stated they didn't have H10, and I told them to send 9005 because I knew this about 9005 and H10s. But just kind of keep that in mind, right? But if you're going with like the more typical bulbs, your H11s, I misspoke earlier in the video here, so I'm getting confused with all the bulbs. This car has H11 on the high beams. So they sent me a 9006, H11, 9005, and I just got the H1 for a different car I'm going to try out. So, sorry to keep it straight. So just kind of keep that in mind. The other thing about HIDs is that, or an LED versus an HID, is that the LEDs, although these chips, let's say these chips put out more lumens than an HID. In this particular case, they're only putting it out from left and right. And this is going to dictate what kind of beam pattern you get out of your specific lens. And unfortunately, there's no way to really know what you're going to get until you buy these and pop them in. Some other companies have the ability to rotate this around and change the orientation. I didn't find this to be the case with these particular bulbs. It does have a set screw here, but I found that it didn't rotate unless I just, didn't turn it hard enough. It seems like this is the orientation that you're going to get. Now, are these going to be brighter than HIDs? I'm still going to kind of lean towards HIDs always being the best option when it comes to retrofit bulbs like this. However, the longevity and the reliability of LED is much better than HID. Now, I may be totally wrong. One of my old buddies had a set of LEDs he got on Amazon. He paid a little more for them. I forget which brand they were, but his particular vehicle, that particular bulb, it was, just as bright as my HIDs, and I'd say brighter. So point being is you really have to give each bulb that you try a fair shake, and only time will tell how this shines. But what I can tell you already is that based on my initial testing, just by putting a piece of cardboard up and looking at the side-by-side comparisons in broad daylight, projecting onto a piece of cardboard, these bulbs were noticeably brighter. So take it for what it is. So let me show you guys a couple close-ups here on what you get. These have a built-in cooling fan. What I like about these two is that they're really small. When we compare this, let me show you something else here. Here I have another LED bulb that I bought years ago. These are about 20 bucks a pair, pretty inexpensive. This is what you're going to find these all day long. And I had these in my dad's Camry. With this particular bulb, when I swapped this out for an HID, the HID was much, much, much brighter. And it just based on a much better beam pattern as well. Now, you can see the difference on these. These are both, pretend it's 9006, so it's 9005, but they're very similar bulbs. Again, this is 9006 fitment, this is 9005, but you can see how much larger the cooling fan and heat sinks are on this. This is a much bigger, clunkier bulb. This is a very neat, almost identical to the size you're going to get in a factory housing. And this is important because depending on the car you're going to put this in, some factory housings have like a lens cap on the back, and this may not be feasible to stuff inside the lens. So this is a very clunky design, and I find, with a Camry in this particular year, or a Solar in my case, there's lots of room. It's an open housing on the back. You can pop this in, let this hang, plug into your harness, and it'll work. With something like, let's say, the bulbs I have, or the housing I have in my Honda, which is aftermarket, but it's got a rubber cap on the back, very minimal room back there. It's pretty much designed to be using bulbs that are kind of like factory, right? And so same thing with like a Jaguar S-Type, although I can't put these in a Jaguar S-Type because it has a different kind of HID system. If I wanted to put, let's say it didn't have HIDs, it has a lens cap on the back, this wouldn't fit in there. So what I like about these is that they're almost exactly the same size as your standard 9005 bulb halogen. So that's basically what, when you have a car you're trying to put aftermarket bulbs in like this that have factory halogens, it's nice that you can find something that's going to fit without any kind of real stuffing of wires or anything like that. And that's what people kind of don't like about HIDs too. You have all the ballast, the igniter, all these wires hanging that you have to kind of secure. Is it a big deal for a car guy? Absolutely not. But for the average person who maybe doesn't have any kind of car experience, is saying, hey, I just want brighter bulbs, I think I could put a bulb in. This is going to be very easy to do so. So just a couple more specs on these. This is right off the website link that they gave me here. So it says here they have easy returns if you're not happy. They'll do returns or exchanges for 45 days. Free shipping. I'm not going to go into secure payment. But for this particular setup, 4 bulbs is going to run you $70. So that's $35 a pair. About what, $16, $17 per bulb. I'd say you can find bulbs all day long for dirt cheap, but are they going to be as good? Are they going to be as bright? I don't really know, honestly. So what else here? Their website has just kind of the information you're going to get on the box. So I'm just going to read it to you. Again, this particular case has the H11 and the 9005 fitment. It is a cool white color, so the Kelvin temperature determines what kind of light output you're going to get. 6000K is going to be more of your bright white, like as white as you could possibly get. Once you start moving away from 6000K towards the 78, you start to get, 7's going to start to get a little bit like baby blue, and then you're going to kind of go into like, once you start getting closer to 10,000, which is going to be more of like a very blue bulb, and then you start getting into like the 12s, which become more violet purple, and then you have specific colors like green or purple. When you're in the 5,000, typically from the factory, and then I can't speak for every car, but typically 4,500K to 6,000K is what you're going to find in factory. 4,500K, I think, is going to put out the most lumens, but again, that's depending on the bulb. If you have the exact same bulb, if you were to get these bulbs, let's say they made them in a 5,000K, 5,000K would have a little more lumens than the 6,000K, right? But it's so minute, it's not really something to worry about. I think what most people really want in an LED bulb is brighter, better performance, better drivability at night, and of course, that nice, bright, more natural daylight. And that's what you're kind of getting with 6,000K is the bright white. They say 32,000 lumens. I believe that is not per bulb, but they don't specifically list it. This is where the numbers game kind of comes in, because there's no real testing that I've seen. There are some YouTube channels that do test individual bulbs, but a lot of times they're testing the ones on the higher price points, and you may not want to spend $100 per set of bulbs, right? So, IP67 water resistance, and 50,000 hours lifespan. Again, that really comes down to luck. I mean, I don't think you can guarantee 50,000. Is this company, if you don't get 50,000, going to refund you? I don't know. I'm not really sure. They also state here that it has a safe beam pattern. High beams extend. This is kind of where I don't really agree with what they're stating, because it says high beams extend the distance between the road and ahead. High beams instantly extend your vision with the powerful penetration. With the same luminous point as a halogen bulb. Well, that's not really true. So when you look at a halogen bulb or an HID bulb, it's completely clear. It's a tube, a clear glass tube, and that light is emitted from 360 degrees, which illuminates the housing in a 360 degree fashion, right? For the most part, that's even out the front. Whereas this, you are only getting luminescence from the left and right of the bulb. So your light is going this way and this way. So if your bulb is designed to reflect towards the top portion of the lens, you're not going to get the proper factory beam pattern, despite what claim they're making there. That's completely not true. It says here, this is what they say: the ultra thin surface spacing of the pole allows the LED chip to project an ultra focused beam and light closer to the light, illuminating wider and further range without blinding and dazzling oncoming traffic. That has nothing to do with the bulb at all. So that has to do with how the lens is, how the housing is designed. So again, you don't really know what you're going to get. They stated these are 600 times brighter than halogen bulbs. I don't know if that's true. I'd like to see some kind of real testing. I think if you're going to make claims like that, no matter what brand it is, if you're going to make claims like that, I think it's important to kind of back up those claims with some kind of test. It'd be very easy for this company to do like a lume test and see if they're 600 times brighter than a halogen bulb. I honestly don't believe that. But overall, you know, here's where they list the 1-to-1 halogen size. It is exactly like your typical halogen bulb, but in this case a 9006. And they just go on and on about, you know, how easy it is to install, and they do talk about the, you know, the spacing, and I think what really sets these bulbs apart for me personally is how close they are to to the size of a factory halogen bulb. Typical go to AutoZone, hey, I need a 9006 bulb. It's going to be almost 1-to-1. So that's I think kind of the real selling point of this bulb. So without further ado, I've given you the information. Let me just go ahead and show you kind of how to put these in. Okay, folks. So here we are under the hood. Again, this is a 2006 Solara. I do have this sucker on 20-inch rims, lowered. It's a great car. I have 50,000 miles on it. I know it's hard to see here. I do have a video on this channel where you can check out the car itself, kind of just a quick kind of show and tell. But for today's purposes, and I know some of you guys are going to ask, oh, do you have anything done to it? Just basically an air intake and exhaust. That's about it. The rest is just a little paint work I did. Removed the factory heat shield, wrapped it with some ceramic wrap. That's about it. System has a pretty elaborate stereo system. But all right, so let me just give you guys kind of the rundown here. And bear with some of the wires here because I have other stuff hooked up. All right, so try to prop this up. All right, so here's my housing. You can see it's a totally open housing in the back. Disregard some of these wires because I have other, you know, LEDs hooked up in different spots. But typically here, you're going to have, here's your factory harness right here. You see that right here. And so basically with these, really simply, just basically turn them and pop them out. Oh, my bad, that was my high beam. So this is my high beam bulbs. You can see this is a real just RGB LED, just for kind of like parking lot lights. Okay, so, all right. So here, as you can see the back of the bulb there. There it is. In this case, changing bulbs is super easy, especially on the side without the battery. Basically, all you're going to do is just give it a twist and pop it out. That's it. I mean, really straightforward. I'm surprised they honestly even want a video of this here. Let me try to prop this camera up a little better here. Let's see if you folks can get a better idea of what I'm talking about here. All right, just gonna turn you around. Hopefully you folks can see that. Again, I apologize. It's not really how I film. All right, so here is your factory housing. It's basically just a plug. You can see there's a factory plug. And all you're gonna do, this is so easy, is take the new bulb. I would put it in the housing first. See if I can show you this a little better here. Here's the housing. Slide the bulb in. Line up the tabs. You're gonna have to rotate it a little bit here until you find the exact location of the tabs. Oops. There you go. And you just turn it and it locks into place. Take your clip, your Molex plug, line that up, pop it on. That's it. I mean, it's as easy as that. And you can see, same size. Imagine if this was a really tight area, like you wouldn't want a real large back to the bulb. This is nice. And that little thing in the back there, that's a built-in cooling fan. So some folks might, I don't know if you, some folks are really picky about everything in life, but just know that these bulbs, when they're on, you will hear that fan kind of humming away. So it does make noise. Is it horrible? Not at all. With the engine running, like, I really don't think you'll even necessarily hear it, but there is kind of a high-pitched noise. So I'm just going to turn them on just so you can see what they look like here. And so this one's the new, these are kind of like some, don't know if you see it. They're built in. You can't change the bulb. They're all one piece. I got these on Amazon just because I didn't want the LEDs near to blind oncoming traffic. So it's a projector lens basically. If these were not in here and I had just a bulb they sent me, these would be projecting there would be a lot of diffusion of light. And you can see on the wall, this is a nice crisp line. So that's going to cut that light off from oncoming traffic. And then of course here is my projector lens with the new LED bulbs. And you can see on the wall, like we're in a pretty bright garage. Like I have, these super bright LED hex lights. And even on a black surface like this that absorbs light, you can see like it's pretty bright on there. So I look forward to trying these out at night, but unfortunately I'll have to come back and do a night video and link to it in the description because I'm not able to pull this car out right now. Okay, well there you have it folks. Pretty straightforward install, I think. Again, it is going to be dependent upon what kind of car you have. And I say this, if you are, don't be intimidated by this stuff, So, I always find it interesting when companies like this want me to do an install video because there's so much information out there. But, hey, I don't mind collaborating with certain companies and having certain agreements. And, pretty basic install, but it is a basic install, right? Now, if you're putting these in a car like, let's say, a Jaguar S-Type, totally different. You're going to have to drop the bumper, so just keep in mind, just because you see how easy it was in a 2006 Camry Solara or a 2006 Camry or 2004 Camry or even a 2000 Honda Accord, just because it's super easy on these cars doesn't mean it's going to be super easy on your car. So kind of keep that in mind. Like anything, I can't tell you exactly whether these will work or not work with your car. It's car specific. YouTube is a great resource of finding out how easy something is to do. I think pretty much you can Google or YouTube most cars out there, hey, how do I change a headlight bulb? It'll show you how to do it. And it's pretty straightforward. The nice thing about these bulbs is that there's no harness, there's no wires you're gonna have to figure out where to tuck in or anything hanging around. They're pretty much plug and play and very simple. If you're gonna change out your bulb with a factory halogen bulb, these are a direct fit, which is great, despite, if you have a certain bulb like I did. But as far as like the 9006, the bulbs that they offer, really easy. And I think, there's so many bulbs you can find on Amazon, eBay. I think what really sets these apart is the fact that it is a one-to-one. It's very familiar. If you've changed a standard halogen bulb before in a car and you know how to do it, then these, they're going to fit perfectly. So that's what I think is a great, I think, feature with these bulbs. And time will tell how well they shine. But based on my initial testing, I'm pretty good about telling what a bulb's going to look like. And to be honest with you, had these bulbs when I put up shined them on the black garage door, when I compared those to the HID kit, because I am a big fan of HIDs, if they were not as bright, I just would have filmed the video and then take the bulbs out and put the HIDs back in and just save them for the future, gave away. But in all honesty, these appear to be brighter, and we're going to have to just see what the projection pattern looks like at night. But I feel based on my initial testing here, I feel pretty confident these are going to be an improvement, even over the HIDs. And if I can help you guys in any way, let me know. Anyway, thanks for watching. Have a great day and take care.